Here we go. Shoulder. It's growing on me.
There's a big sound from the west of the town.
Shoulder FootyCast live from BackChat Studios. You like that, Skeeter? I
like that. Actually, it's growing on me, and so have the Giants. And I've got to say, I mean, the Carlton Collingwood romance of a grand final is there for a lot of people. But I tell you, the Giants have become my sort of de facto final side.
What about a Brisbane GWS grand final?
Talking about the oxygen coming out of Melbourne in a week where
they would be so. I want that just to piss everyone off.
Well,
over there.
you know what? I don't think the AFL though. I think they'd be happy for the Giants to win a flag.
Yeah,
they would be. No question about that. But in terms of the atmosphere and the hype, look, he couldn't match Carlton Collingwood. But anyway, we'll discuss that at some stage.
Shoulder FootyCast live from BackChat Studios. I've been away for a week, Skeeter. FootyCast at shelterbrewing.com.au. Send us your questions. We'll get through the Thirsty Camel clanger of the week. Don't run out of your favourites. Grab your shelters at Thirsty Camel. I've got some decent clangers this week, Skeeter.
Have you?
There's some decent ones. So I was over back home last week. And look, there's no real easy way to sort of probably go through this, I suppose. But lost my brother yesterday to cancer, so we have spoken about him here on the podcast. And he's a sort of bloke that really was a big fan of both my footy and my media stuff. So definitely wanted to be here and do this, but clearly my mind and heart is probably elsewhere at the moment. But we will get through and do some of this, mate. But as you know, it's no good losing family members like that. No,
and I totally sympathise with you, and our hearts go out to you and your mum and your brother, and I know it's been a bit of a long process, and apart from the banter, the sledging, the fun we have, I think there's the genuine care factor amongst the family in here and BackChat, and I know anyone who listens would also, it resonates with them, and I lost my dad 18 months ago, and others have lost parents or brothers, etc., and you feel a bit numb and you feel pretty flat about life, and footy is about the 15th thing on your priorities. But, as I say, our thoughts are with you, mate. And I think I always say this, you take as much time as you need. If you need to work to make yourself keep the mind going, that's the best way to do it. Or otherwise, I think whatever you do, it's your call and people will support you.
I spent all week back there last week, and one thing I did one thing I did appreciate was footy, actually, and the fact that as much as we come in here and genuinely just talk shit, it is a great distractor and also a connector of people, whether you're going through something in hard times or you're looking for great times. It's actually got something for everyone. So the footy being on and all of that happening has been good. So I think personally, I've been doing footy for a while now, and I think I want to continue to do so.
And I know Jace, you mentioned this to me last week when we were talking. He was very keen for you to have a bit of a shindig and around grand final week in Melbourne, so he would not be wanting any sorrow.
He's timed it well, actually, because he speaks about he didn't want a funeral, he didn't want religious sort of stuff. He wants a celebration of his life, and he wanted it a couple of weeks after he passed away because he feels like everyone will be too sad immediately after that, which is he's incredibly self-aware because it's probably correct. So we do it. I think it's going to be around the grand final. He's timed it well, the big fella. But thoughts to mum and the family.
Absolutely.
As well. So let's get into this, Skeeter. I reckon putting a bit of a smile on mine and others' faces would be a good way to go. So I don't want this to be a morbid show.
No. But that being said, I hate to draw from one to another. But the biggest story on the weekend, apart from the two semi-finals, was the passing of Ron Barassi at the age of 87, and not insignificant either was the passing of Kevin Cowboy Neal, who was a St Kilda great, played in their only premiership in 1966, kicked 5 goals. He didn't get the kudos that Barry Breen did for kicking the behind, which of course got them across the line against Collingwood. But to Cowboy Neal, he was obviously much loved and a double blow for Australian football. But going back to Ron Barassi, I only saw stuff of him on TV, a bit like you now looking at highlights, but what a contributor, what a man. In the AFL is having a press conference later this morning, which not confirmed, but I think it makes a bit of sense. There's no Premiership Cup named after an icon of Australian football, and I think Ron fits into that category. So don't be surprised if we see the Barassi Cup presented on Saturday week to one of the 4 remaining sides.
I saw an all-time stat on Ron Barassi too. I think you know how great of a player he was. certainly out of my era.
And mine as well, just quietly.
Yeah.
We're playing centre. It was 15 years, you prick, before I was born. Seriously.
It was a 40-year-old sitting in the stands watching his business in the 50s.
Give me a break.
So in the last 25 years, there's 4 players that have been involved in either as a player or as a coach.
Some modern-day players,
finals.
yes.
Franklin's one of them. Clarkson's one of them.
Hardwick, I think.
Hardwick's one of them. And then there's one more. Buckley? Would it be Buckley?
Could be.
I don't know. So 25 years, it's 6. In the 25-year period that Ron Barassi was involved in footy, or certainly a 25-year period, he was involved in 17. That 17 grand finals.
Yeah.
That is outrageous.
I think he was asked by Neil Mitchell. I think he was and he lost, I think, 7 or whatever. And Neil Mitchell's question was, so how did you lose to 7? It was like such a record. But at different times, I say this with total respect. I mean, it was a VFL competition. If you're with a club like Carlton, and of course with Melbourne initially, yeah, it's the competitive nature of the competition has become really difficult, but those numbers speak for themselves. And we talked about Mr. Football, Teddy Whitten. From a West Australian perspective, doesn't have the same, I guess, the same standing because he was a Victorian, and obviously most of his career and life was spent over there. But you know, a champion are great when you see one.
Well, it'll be good if it is named after him. I think that probably sounds pretty fitting, given his contribution to the game. While I was away, there was a fair bit going on. If we just rewind the clock a little bit.
See what, and it all said. Now, you know, my social media skills are pretty ordinary, but Hamish Brayshaw, he started to trend. Was it viral? Is that the right term? He was going viral?
Right here on the show, the FootyCast.
Absolutely. And there was a Herald Sun, and there's TV, and that was just...
I saw him do an interview on Channel 7, Channel 9, Channel 10, Fox Footy, FootyCast. He was doing articles.
Oh, yeah.
How bloody good. As you know, any publicity is good publicity.
Oh, yeah, and as soon as I've got to say, you know, even not a good journalist can sit down and I was interviewing him on the Monday, or chatting to him and asking him about the Angus incident, and I'm thinking, oh dear, this is going to be picked up somewhere. He's got to realise, and he was quite comfortable. He did give the AFL a bit of a whack, which I think in hindsight probably was just a bit emotional, which I get.
Do you know what? I thought, yeah, okay, maybe a tiny bit overboard, but a few things. His brother, given what we spoke about at the top of this show, it means more to people than footy. So if you're someone's brother, it doesn't matter if you're in the media or you've played footy. Or you're gonna go and
have
defend
their
your
back.
brother. Yeah, and I couldn't have loved that more. The actual incident.
So just going back, I reckon I think I read this because you were quite. Speaking of Hammer getting smashed on social media, you decided, well, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I might just jump in here, come out of the trenches, and run towards the enemy with a pistol, and they've got rifles ready to come back anonymously and go bang, bang, bang. So why did you get so invested in it?
A couple of reasons. Number one,
you're a dickhead.
Number one, I am a dickhead. Number two, like in the same vein of being a dickhead, I remember texting either Jaden or Dan. I said, I reckon I can get Collingwood fans going here. So I just thought, you know what, like most of my stuff on Twitter is just tongue in cheek, firmly, and I'll see if I can prod and push a little bit. It's a little bit like Footy Field for me. Footy Field, I'd be on the yap, I'd be elbowing, like carrying on a dickhead.
Yeah.
But as soon as the siren goes and it's all over, like I'm back to me. Some people get bloody carried away. Nathan Buckley was calling out my integrity, and I'm very happy to call him back. Are you fucking kidding me, Nathan?
Hang on,
Buckley?
what in what sense the integrity?
I
aspect?
said one of my tweets, which again was amongst a big range of tweets targeting the Collingwood Football Club and their fan base, which again, tongue in cheek, like Maynard. Give it or take it or leave it. I don't know if he gets weeks. He doesn't. He doesn't get weeks. He plays. He's a good player.
Yeah.
Good. I said something like, let's be honest, where you sit on this Maynard thing is whether you like the Collingwood Football Club or not, basically. And then Nathan said...
There'd certainly be a lot of footy people like that. If you
Nathan said, maybe you could just have some integrity. Okay, calm down, Nathan, seriously.
I think
have a laugh.
I've met Nathan a couple of times, and he's a really nice fella. But sometimes I think, unless you know Will Schofield or know someone and their sense of humour, it can be, and Twitter can read literally as opposed to... so just quickly...
You know the other thing?
What?
Nathan Buckley is also a coach and player for the Collingwood Football Club, so he literally proved my point. Couldn't have proved it anymore.
Yeah, but also you play for the West Coast Eagles, beat them in a grand final.
That was the point I was making.
There might have been a bit of saltiness.
Yeah,
they're thinking of you. Yeah, anyway.
Hope you're sleeping well, Nathan.
He's a nice fella. Well, I'll tell you what. Anyway, I'm looking forward to Friday night.
What else?
Do you think that the right decision was made with Maynard?
Look, I think this year it was. I think the precedent that's been set with some of the decisions this year and the inconsistencies we've seen, I think actually it was. Is it the correct decision? No. Like we will probably see
That will be changed.
We will see that suspended next year. So I can't sit here and say he should have been suspended because we haven't seen that enough in the AFL this year.
We haven't seen that at all. I can't remember a case, an incident like that. That's why it was so hard to judge. I'm a bit with you. Maynard, I love the way he goes about his footy. I didn't want him to miss the grand final. I wouldn't have minded him missing a prelim final just to show you that the bloke was concussed for 2 minutes. He left the ground, albeit that he was... People are saying it was a footy act. Well, so's tackling, so's bumping. But if you get it wrong, you get it wrong. I just think that to get zero penalty and Brayshaw, well, his season's over now, of course, but to miss a semi-final because of that, I was in the camp of suspension. But again, maybe I was going for the half-pregnant thing. I didn't want him to get 3 weeks and miss a GF, but I thought there had to be some price to pay for, albeit, and they're saying that he launched and he couldn't turn, and Brayshaw should have ducked and dived. Anyway, the bloke got poleaxed. Maynard gets off, so good luck to him.
We move on. Hamish Brayshaw had a pretty big Monday. He won the Sandover that night. With you, you were hobnobbing up there, were you? With the champagne glasses? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so
what's the difference?
I'm sitting here talking to him on the Monday morning. Of course, I've an NDA. I've got to just.
Oh, did you know?
Well, yeah, I'm hosting the event.
Is that right? No, I just didn't.
Yeah.
So you knew.
Well, I think there are certain people that know because of the role they play.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
So it's quite difficult. Well, it wasn't difficult because I was looking to hammer on it. I did something with him for Channel 7 that day. How are you going to go? All that sort of stuff. So
that's great.
So next time I saw him on Thursday, so he's gone from headlines with the Angus situation to winning a Sandover. So it was huge. I was really happy for him.
I thought he was a massive chance to win it. We were trying to get there, and in the end, I wouldn't have been able to go. But Dan and I were trying to get there because I'd seen his stats and his form during the year, and what he was doing. He was kicking goals.
That's the thing. I think 24, 25 goals. That makes a big difference for a mid.
That jumps up off the page as a midfielder. Their whole midfield went extremely well, didn't they?
Yeah, Shoemaker, Croden, they all got plenty of it and votes as well. So, no, well done to Hamish, and I bumped into him at the Cass afterwards, and he was, I think his brother, obviously, Andrew, turned up. And
nice.
And I think I mentioned this in the last pod. You weren't here. But anyway, so I had a room for the night at Crown Towers.
Right?
Yes.
Did you buy that yourself? Or?
No, I didn't. It was just let's not worry about where the cost... There's no big sound coming from my room. I'll tell you why. Because so I've driven and I've thought I'll just drive home because I'm going to do brekkie radar the next morning. And so I've told this before, but in essence, Olivia, my daughter, said, "I'll take the room, Dad." Of course, jump in, little freebie. Any breakfast included, Dad? I said, "No, sister, go and buy some McDonald's down in the foyer afterwards." But anyway, so she's got the room. She went to the Sandover. My other daughter, Georgia, decided to stay as well. 11:30, finished late, the Sandover. Yes. I've decided I've been dragged out by a guy called Paul Higgins, who works at the Shoe, and all the East Perth cronies up to celebrate the victory. Hammer rocks up. And so I've had 2 beers, about 6 bourbons, 3 shelters, and I couldn't drive, essentially. So I ended up wandering back to the room, and I had to, reluctantly, well, the girls didn't want, I had to sleep on the edge of the bed with the 2 daughters. So sleeping next to your 2 22-year-old twins, not the best look, but you know what? Better than jumping in a car at 1:30 in the morning.
To be honest, I thought that was going another way.
No, it's all clean.
You walked in there and found Hamish Brayshaw in the room. No, I'm just saying, mate. Oh, sorry, mate. I apologise.
You are.
I'd much rather the way that story ended with you being a pissed idiot. If we keep on the suspension side of things, Cozzy Pickett, from this week, let's get back into this week's side of things, the big stuff that's happened this round. Cozzy Pickett gets 1 week. That's a disgrace. I can't say that any more clearly. The only way this isn't a bigger story is because Melbourne aren't playing in a prelim. Can you imagine what would be happening this week? It'd be worse than Maynard. Have to be.
Well, yeah. I mean, a 1 week suspension, if that had stood, they win a prelim. He plays in a grand final.
No, the AFL should be challenging this now. I know he's not playing in the prelim, and they're going to just wipe it under the table and not even talk about it. They should be challenging this. This is a player that's done this before.
Bailey Smith early in the season.
In the exact same spot. If you watch them side by side, they're exactly the same action. So he hasn't learnt. He's repeat offender. He has hit Patrick Crips in the head. So there's 2 factors to this. Cozzy Pickett gets him in the head, gets 1 week. I think that's unders. How is Patrick Cripps not assessed properly on the boundary line, and then we're not talking about it? I haven't seen anything about Patrick Cripps. We've seen a bit of Wiedering, right? We saw what happened to Wiedering at the end of that game. Port Adelaide were fined $100,000 over an incident that wasn't as heavy. But if we're trying to get these head knocks out of the game, I don't understand how Cripps and Wiedering don't get put in HIA and at least a 20-minute assessment on the ground.
Well, Wiedering, this has come through the club, and obviously there's a bit of spin happening here. Potentially, they're saying he was struck in the throat.
Just watch it; he gets hit in the chin,
but
and he's stumbling around.
But Scully, this goes back to my point, and I've got no issue with clubs trying to. I mean, this is their season on the line here, one of your best players. So I can understand clubs doing it, but that's why I say take out the. I'll go give you a stat shortly. Take out the pre-finals bye, because this is where clubs are now. They're going to try and skirt the system, and this is one where Crips. I think the AFL's cleared Carlton with the Crips Wiedering incidents. So off the back of that, you just have to look at and question the Pickett one is one that I totally agree with you.
Well, we're taking the piss basically. So people have told me that an independent doctor won't work and it'll be too expensive. Apparently, the AFLW have independent concussion doctors. Do you know that? Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that, to be honest.
There you go. So they've got that. So if it's good enough for the AFLW, I reckon it's probably good enough for the AFL. Wiedering and Cripps, nothing to see here. All good. Got a prelim to get to. We're not taking it seriously enough. Patrick Cripps was concussed. He got chased down 3 times after he came back on the ground and got hit in the head again, and there was no action. I just thought that was incredibly disappointing, and even more disappointing the AFL. There's no follow up from them.
No, exactly. And what we have seen is 2 clubs bow out in straight sets. Melbourne for the second year in a row, not since 1986-87 when the Sydney Swans, different final setup, have gone out. Have they become victims of losing 2 matches in succession? So too Port Adelaide. Just a quick, this is obviously through Swamp Thing, who does a great job. Interesting stat. Under the current final system from 2000 onwards, the win-loss ratio for top 4 sides in semi-finals, without a pre-finals bye, so you play through, 28 wins, 6 losses for your top 4 sides. Yes. Since we've had the pre-finals bye, 8 and 6. So it's very much a 50-50 as opposed to the advantage to the top 4 sides. So make of that what you want.
That's another reason to be bringing in the bye before the grand final, I think, to benefit those who deserve it. And the better sides are going to hold up better in the early stages of the finals without a break.
Yep.
The teams that are going to benefit more are the ones that are going to sort of roll the dice a bit.
But does that take away the possibility, as we saw in 2016, of the Western Bulldogs and the emotional run they went through to get to a grand final and win it? Compare that to, say, what the Giants are doing.
Well, no, because the Giants were rolling anyway. I mean, they've won 10 of their last 12.
but to not have a break would have made life a bit tougher for them. Let's be honest.
Would have?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, Sam Taylor may not have played in that first week. I don't know.
That's a good point.
So there's a couple of issues there, but look, I think there's the romance now of the Giants coming from way back in the pack to potentially get to a grand final. But yeah, those numbers speak volumes.
Just bring your mic down a little bit, Skeeter.
Thank you very much.
Will Schofield, Mark Redding's Shelter FootyCast. Keep it going. Give it again. Carlton defeat Melbourne by 2 points. We will get into the GWS shortly. Just in case you didn't realise, Skeeter, I'm all over the Giants this week. They're absolutely sizzling. Carlton defeat Melbourne by 2 in the first prelim. It was the first prelim since 2000 for Carlton, so it's been massive. Coming up, sorry, but I don't know how Carlton won this in the end, to be honest.
9-17 Melbourne kick. Now, you saw and called the game. I didn't have that opportunity, but they butchered the game, Melbourne. It's a choke. I hate to say this, but they've choked themselves out of contention again.
Now, that's not talking down the Blues' form coming into this. They've won 11 of their last 12, and you can't give them any more credit than the highest level. Given Michael Voss's name was being thrown around as he's someone who should be sacked during the year. They've gone on a massive run of 11 games over the last 12. There were some big players and guys that stood up, and I do want to speak about that moment. When I was calling the game on radio, I kept saying over and over, there's going to be, what happens in finals footy and close games, there's going to be moments. And that's the most exciting thing about finals. There were some big moments for some Melbourne players, like Max Gawn taking that big mark on the goal line. He goes around and he hits the post. Don't know if you remember that one. He snapped around on his left a bit later in the game. But that last play, Jack Viney wins the stoppage. He has the entire field. He could have kicked that, and I reckon he's picked out a 1-by-1 square.
It was a chip, little short.
Well, he kind of just shanked it. He came
yeah.
out under pressure, and all I'm saying, it's not Jack Viney's fault, but
territory.
Weering was just sitting there, and it just happened to go to him. He got it, turned inside, and then you see the play. The young fella Hollands that had come onto the ground, he wheeled around. Unfortunately, I thought he played really, really well, but McVie has a play at the Doherty mark. And he
overcommitted.
Yeah, it actually took me back to one of my first years in the AFL, and similar incident. Not an elimination final, but the ball up in the air like that, and you've got a player in front of you, and they're going to mark it. I did exactly the same as McVie. Sort of reached around to try and spoil the ball, and you go to he's trying to do the right thing and clean spoil the ball, misses the player goes. That is the worst possible scenario. The best case is you spoil the ball. The worst case has to be you stop your man. So I remember doing that, what McVie did. And John Worsfold called me after the game, was like, you ever do that again, you never play here again, basically. You take the body.
Yep.
So pretty much the rest of my career, any spoil like that, my whole body would go through the player. And if it was a free kick, if they fell over, if he marked it, good work. But he just had to get more body on, unfortunately. And then kicks long, bit of a Dom Sheed type scenario with Blake Akres, who just drifted forward after trying to stop Jack Viney's kick. He just ran forward without the ball. Ended up 4-on-2 in the goal square. Mitch McGovern's action goes underrated.
Yeah, it was a good, very, very subtle.
He was never in a million years trying to mark that, but he had the nous to put his hands up as if he was trying to, blocked his man. Akres puts it in by about an inch.
Imagine if he'd hit the don't know, Harry Mackay. Anyway,
it was bloody. It was amazing.
It was huge.
Apparently, the noise
was
rocked the MCG.
Security was saying it was the biggest noise, the loudest noise they've heard for yonks. And yeah, Akres massive. Hasn't he had a good finals campaign? The Blues are playing super footy. Their role players are doing their job. I'm not sure they can go up to Brisbane and get the job done, but they're on a wave of emotion, and it's good to watch. I'm loving it.
Did you like Sam de Koning's work?
Fantastic. I loved it so much that Robbie Williams has decided
De Koning's in the air, everywhere I look around. De Koning's everywhere, leaving bodies on the ground. And he's better than his brother. De Koning's in the air, da 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 da. De Koning's in the air, da 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 da.
What's Tom's brother's name? This is terrible, man.
No, it's a fair question. I got no idea. You're asking me.
He's a premiership player, mate. He's a premiership player.
Yeah, go.
Sam de Koning. So Sam's got a whack from Robbie Williams. I think, look, Tom would have woken up saying that, thinking like, "How good is my life?" But I reckon as a brother, again, he would have been on the phone to Sammy going, "How about this, mate? I'm better than you." Sucked in.
Robbie, how quick was now at the Carlton? Now my daughter's ringing me. I might just give that's Olivia. So you can.
Okay. No worries.
Can I call? No, I can't talk now. Thank you. Working it out. Seriously, I don't think I just wander around aimlessly through the day. They've got stuff happening. Robbie Williams, that's great effort by the Carlton marketing department or social media team to get on him.
I reckon he's.
You reckon this is done pre-recorded, but prior to.
No, I reckon he's
of
done
his own bat.
Well, because he played at the AFL Grand Final.
Yeah,
remember?
apparently he did.
What do you mean?
Well, I was caught outside trying to flog a ticket, remember? And I didn't get to sell. I didn't sell the ticket. I missed Robbie Williams, and then I got inside, and the ticket value went like the stock exchange crash, and every goal got kicked in the first quarter by Geelong, and so I ended up worth zero.
So he did play, and so I reckon he knows about it. I reckon he was watching it. It looked like it anyway. I don't know, mate.
Good on him. Yeah, it's great stuff.
Blake Akres, you mentioned, was unreal. Sam Walsh was unstoppable. 34 disposals,
probably best
2
on.
goals. Yep, best on. I thought Chera was very good too. So Freo fans, bit of a shout out to a couple of players.
That's a little. Why do you have to do that? I mean, the Chera one was unavoidable. They couldn't.
No.
Akres a bloke they could have kept somehow.
I think so. I think he just wanted a bit more money. They wanted
a bit more love.
a bit more valued. And he was the biggest one. You know,
you did say it.
Pretty happily say I was pretty critical of letting him go because he's just so important to their structure. And you can see what he does as a winger for Carlton. Look, he's going to be in doubt for the prelim though. His shoulder's been cooked for a few weeks now.
Akres.
Yeah, Akres. Like he's been carrying he can barely lift his arm. So
can they jab that and just do what
well,
they
I can, but I think it's a crack in his collarbone. So not much you can do with the bone.
Bear in
unfortunately.
mind, the late Darren Mullane played with a broken thumb of that nature in 1990 and played through finals. And
what does it mean for Melbourne? Melbourne, the first team to bow out straight set losers 2 years in a row, holding that record. No one else has ever done it.
now they're talking about listening to Melbourne radio over the weekend. They're talking about this as a missed opportunity for a group of footballers that obviously won flag, and now face the prospect of finishing their careers with one flag unless they can change the narrative at the
Which
moment.
there's nothing wrong with, Skeeter.
No, I understand that, but they're saying that, and they would have said that after 18, the Eagles to go on and win two. They generally say that, but in this case, Melbourne probably to go back to after their grand final win, the year afterwards, they were 11-0. Was that? Is that am I thinking the right season?
Yep.
And they ended up falling short against Brisbane in a final again. So, yeah, there's big question marks.
They've lost a couple of tight games though. They lose the qualifying final in a tight one.
That's because their forward line, Scully, is
I know
they lack any. You look at their forward line; they'll get opportunities because of their entries. I mean, they had 69 entries against Collingwood, but
so that should be an easy fix though, and they're not an ageing side.
No, well, Van Rooyen's going to be a player.
Yeah,
but they do need to find that. I mean, they've got Wiedemann in there to try and add that height.
Ben Brown went away this year.
Ben Brown's been injured, and I'm not sure he's the answer in the next year or two. So you're right. If they can get that forward setup perfected or certainly improved, they again, the midfield's so good, the back line is steady, but the window's still open. But it's you don't get forever to win flags.
No, you don't. I just think that it shouldn't be panic stations. It's clearly disappointing. And there's going to be 17 teams that are disappointed this year as well, just as disappointed as Melbourne are. Melbourne, right at this moment, are no different to West Coast and Fremantle, who both had shocking years. Making a semi-final, making a prelim final. It's a point that I'll make about both these sides going in there. Carlton, off the back of this, incredibly emotional, massive game, a lot of pats on the back, fan base is up and about. That can go both ways. It can be momentum and you can really take on Brisbane in Brisbane, or you can fall in a heap, and losing a prelim, honestly, it's no difference between losing a prelim and getting knocked out before finals. It's still a failure. It is still a failure.
But I don't think if you're going to draw that comparison with clubs missing the 8 and what the Giants and what the Blues have done now, again, going back, I think, to round 15 or thereabouts, these two sides were miles outside the 8 in terms of ladder position wise. They were on struggle street. This is before Carlton went on their run, the Giants went on their run. But to make the prelim final, obviously you want to win it. But I think both clubs will sit back after the pain if they get beaten this weekend. Carlton will go, no, that's a tick for us.
They get a tick. I understand that, but it's not until you win a premiership that you realise every other year, although they were fun, although winning's great, although great experiences, they pale in significance by a long way. So, look, I just hope one or others can. I hope either Carlton or GWS can get up, and I hope they can win the flag. And I think one of them may do, Skater.
Oh, that's a
that's correct.
A bold call. We got a bold call, no?
Yeah, bold prediction. I don't know if we do. Maybe a bit of a roll of the dice there. Get your tickets for Dice.
September 22.
Thank you.
That's coming up. That's this Friday.
It is this Friday. This Friday, get your tickets to Dice.
I
think they're almost sold out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think they are.
The weather's okay, I think. They're going to be really nice through Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Go and check out Dice.
I'd jump on Shelter's website to get some tickets there. Let's get on to the next game, shall we? GWS defeat Port by 22 points. All right, Jack Buckley, you need to cut a little bit of that. Jack Buckley, he was outstanding.
So
in this
I
game.
look at your social media, Twitter, and you've now got a headshot of Jack Buckley.
I do, mate. So I'm just going to start with the best. He was outstanding. 11 spoils, 13 1%ers. Their back line was very good.
Sam Taylor, of course.
Sam Taylor was very good. Jack Buckley was slightly better than Sam Taylor, but they both saved goals. Jack Buckley fingertip one. Sam Taylor saved one with his calf. Their back line was good. Their midfield was great.
Elite.
GWS,
and that's
great.
where that's where. And you looked at how they're. I mean, Lockie Whitfield. I don't know if anybody was even remotely within his postcode for the first.
He outworked everyone.
He just ran and created. And
Tom Green was
Tom Green, what a
outstanding
bull.
in the first.
Now, Carl Langdon said to me often, he goes, this bloke will win a Brownlow medal. And you know what? I sort of said, yeah, right, you reckon, Carl. But when I've looked in really closely this season, and particularly in the finals, his body, big body, he's doing a lot of super work. I mean, when you got Cornelio coming back, making the impact he has, Josh Kelly was so good in that first final, and their mids are going to be the reason, if they get to a grand final, that apart from their defence and their forward set up with your mate Toby Green and Bedford, I guess you could say, but they are looking on top of the ground at this time of the year, which is really, really promising.
I went on a tweeting rampage in this game as well, Skeet. I said, if you can't stop Toby Green, you can't stop GWS. And although he wasn't the best forward, Jesse Hogan kicked 4-4. Toby Green was outstanding and kicked goals. The goals he kicked
early as well. He kicked a couple in the first quarter, which, because Port, that was when they were sort of asking the questions.
Yeah, because if Port jumped GWS at home, GWS gets doubts. And it'll be the same at the MCG this week against Collingwood. If GWS can be in the game at quarter time, I think they're a big chance. And Toby Green kept him in it with 2 really clutch goals. And then he kicked that one late, if you remember. That again, it was the sealer. I just thought he was outstanding. You've mentioned them. Lockie Whitfield had 33 disposals, 19 kicks, 5 tackles. Was amazing. Stephen Cornelio, again, didn't play, 30 disposals. Port Adelaide looked outplayed at almost every position.
Well, let's be honest. I think they were cooked. They had played some blokes who were injured, including Charlie Dixon, not right. Scott Lycett probably wasn't right. The question is now, does Scotty Lycett, does he finish his career at Port Adelaide? Question mark.
He's probably close to finishing. Scotty.
Yeah, full stop.
Not
Who knows?
Him up, but
he's probably near the end. They just had players that looked as if they'd fired their best shot. I mean, they went on a huge winning run. I think it was 13 games in a row, something to that effect. They went from possibly winning the minor premiership to missing a home qualifying final, and when they had to play Brisbane, their finals performances were as bad as anyone. Let's be honest. Melbourne were beaten by, I think, a combined tally of 9 points or something. Yeah. Port Adelaide were pounded by Brisbane, and they lost by 4 goals to the Giants. They never looked like winning that game after quarter time, I didn't think.
No, I agree. Like Rosie and Butters. Like Butters was better than Rosie, but Rosie was unsighted. I think he had 14 disposals.
Yeah.
When you're good players, and they're good players, they're not great yet. You have games like that, and the pressure's on. The best and great players stand up, even, no matter what. That's what has made Buddy Franklin such a great player, and Dusty Martin such a great player, that when their teams need them and they're the best players and they're paid the most money, and unfortunately, you know who their best player was? Willie Rioli. I thought he was outstanding, Willie.
Yeah, kicked 3.
Yep.
He got them early. Did he fade in the game? Probably a bit like
the whole team.
And playing that small forward role.
Horn Francis looked pretty dangerous.
Horn Francis, some of his ground ball gets early were really good. And look, at the end of the game for Port, Tom Jonas, we knew he was retiring, and that was sort of a sad moment for him, but his calf and his career had basically come to its conclusion. Travis Boak also feel that at his age and with the way he was used the back end of this season, I just get the feeling Port want to ease him out gracefully if they can.
Be interesting if someone thinks they can use him at a club and do the Sam Mitchell role.
Because I think Boak believes that he might have one more left in him. That's just the general consensus. But
I reckon there'll be a market for him to do what Sam Mitchell did.
He wasn't their worst. I think he had 21 touches on Saturday night.
I thought he was better than Rosé.
Yeah, he was certainly in the top half dozen players, I would have thought, comfortably.
For Port Adelaide. Yeah. Thirsty Camel Clanger of the week. Now, it might be Clanger of the week, Clanger of the month. Re-signing Ken Hinkley before finals. I'm gonna put it on the table.
Mr. Hindsight, eh?
I reckon they've had a bit of a mare there, and the argument that's used for keeping coaches around, and we don't have to look much further than our own backyard here in Western Australia, is who's the best available, who's on the market. Prelim final weekend. Tell me who's coaching.
Oh, they're all young
Adam
coaches.
Kingsley,
Adam first year.
Craig McRae, second year. Michael Voss, second year.
Well, yeah, but a recycle, but coming back, and was almost given the lemon by a lot of Carlton supporters mid-year.
Chris Fagan's been there for a while.
Absolutely. But he had to wait a long time.
Correct. So you can't tell me that there's not another Adam Kingsley,
100%.
not another Craig McRae in this group. So it's Uze, it's Jen Siracusa, it's Ash Hansen.
It's McQualter, even if he doesn't get the job at Richmond. I mean, there's ample opportunities for a West Coast if, to say there's not anyone out there. I think Collingwood, again, is the template to show you. Is it McRae's second or third year?
Second.
Second year. So, geez, he's done some amazing work, and they're one win away from a GF.
Mate, Kingsley, so that's my Thirsty Camel clanger of the week. Don't run over your favourites. Grab your shoulders at Thirsty Camel. I think they've pulled the trigger on Ken too early because he hasn't succeeded at finals.
So wait until the end of the season?
I think so. Why would you?
I think was the reason they were concerned about Richmond being on the search for a coach. Ken does, and look, Ken's been there, I think, 11 years.
So what should you do? Should you negate to another club, or should you worry about your own backyard?
Well, the bottom line is they thought, and I think when they re-signed him, they're playing finals, they're playing their top four. So, but Ken, after 10 or 11 years when he hasn't won a premiership, hasn't got to a grand final, history says, even with someone like Adam Simpson, who's been in a club for more than 10 years, you've won a premiership, terrific, but to actually, after that, it gets, I think, the record of coaches after 10 years, particularly in Ken's case, doesn't get any better. So I agree with you on that. Perhaps the wrong rein pulled. My Thirsty Camel, is it Clanger? The Clanger, Thirsty Camel?
Absolutely.
Now, we don't have the audio here of the pre-game, Port Adelaide play Never Tear Us Apart, which is obviously really iconic for them, and they do it really well. Get the scarves up there. We were playing that on 6PR as part of our live broadcast. And, of course, everyone cheers at the end. I'm hosting. I said, Carl really, he'd got no idea with music. I said, mate, that was a fantastic rendition of Never Tear Us Apart, of course, one of the great bands of all time. Who was it? He goes, he doesn't follow music. Crowded House.
Oh, boy.
Crowded House. Poor old
boy.
Carlos. And he admits he got no idea with music, but Crowded House, who, of course, pulled out of the grand final to allow my mates Kiss.
Surprised he didn't go with Kiss.
So a little thirsty. In fact, there are a couple of clangers. Can we go with, as another clanger, it's a very small point, but the altercation, was it Rosie?
Yep.
On the boundary with the water.
Is it Butters or is it Rose?
I'll get
Butters.
Butters,
Butters.
yeah.
I've done that to you.
Yeah, Butters, and he threw the chair away. He got stuck into the poor water lady. Who's in the right and who's the wrong there? Did you see it?
I did. I remember I saw it at the time. I was like, gee, that's a bit
over the top.
Yeah, it pissed me off a bit because I was fanboying the Giants. Look,
don't sound like you're strong either way.
No, I'm not. Because I don't know if you've seen the footage of Fraser Gehrig.
I did. I saw that. He kicked it away.
Kicks into the fourth row of the stand.
The G train.
And if other players do it, I don't know. Maybe if Toby Green did that, just imagine if Toby Green did that. So I think he's probably getting a little bit of a soft call on it. I think it was pretty shit. Yeah, I didn't like it.
He didn't have to. I mean, he didn't have to throw the chair and make. She should have maybe stepped back a couple of metres, but she's not. She's just sitting there minding her business.
I was going to say, she didn't get too upset about it. She was like, oh, whatever you want to do, mate.
Yeah, dickhead.
Yeah, correct, pretty much.
Yeah.
He looked, he was pissed off.
They were getting rolled at that stage.
Correct.
So, anyway, I'm not going to hang him on that, but plenty did on social media.
Will Schofield, Mark Redding, Shelter FootyCast. Couple of listener questions for us, Skeeter.
Yeah,
let's finish this one off. Jack AG24. Port kicked 136 points against GWS last time we played. Thank you very much, Jack.
Is that what I was going to say? That's what Carl kept saying. He said, they beat them by 60 points in round 22. They're going to do it. That'll just roll on again. I said, it doesn't happen that way, Carl.
Well, the big reason was, and you would have noticed the pressure that they put on that first half, Toby Bedford and Daniels.
Yeah.
That they didn't play in that game. And the other one who didn't play was Callahan.
Yep.
So they're three massive inclusions for them. And I know for a fact GWS think they can beat Collingwood at the G. And I think they can too.
And bear in mind, we did the game early this year, and I think they've won now at 11 different venues. Obviously, they'd won at the Adelaide Oval previously, but they were towed up by Collingwood on that day by 60-odd points. Probably their worst defeat of the season, numbers-wise. So like the Giants, you think that there's enough momentum.
Different side.
Playing
a different way.
They're 3-7.
Yeah. So it's
3-7.
It's basically, I don't know if they'd look a lot at that game as a as a way of trying to beat Collingwood, or vice versa. I don't think Collingwood would be looking too much at that game.
And we'll talk about this later, but Nick Dacos to return, Taylor Adams to miss.
I'm surprised Nick Dacos is returning. I saw some footage of him on the weekend. He's still limping.
You still don't think he's right to go?
Still limping, mate.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But it's a prelim.
Well, it is. You can't hang around forever, so that'll be a big test for him. Craig Taylor asks, if Maynard's action was a suspension, then kneeing someone in the head going for a mark is a suspension too. This has been a pretty common one.
I disagree with that because the ball's in dispute there. If you're going for a mark and that's your primary objective, the ball is in dispute. It's neither here nor there. Brayshaw had the ball in his hands. He was possessing the ball. Maynard didn't have the ball.
Yeah, okay.
And I know he's trying to smother. If he partially smothered it and cannoned into him, but he didn't touch the ball.
Yeah, it's just going to be a difficult one to adjudicate. Like I agree with you.
Are you on the Kane Corns thing with this marking thing, knee to the head type stuff?
Well, no, but I would say though, if you go up to take a hanger, you knee someone in the head, you don't touch the ball, you should be reported.
That's generally regarded as an unrealistic attempt,
right? And you should be reported, and you should be suspended, which we don't do at the moment. So, look, I think I can definitely put my hand up and say it's going to be a difficult one to control, and I don't think we'll lose the specky, but players are just going to become more and more careful. Like I'm not someone who's sitting here saying I like the fact that these are going out of the game, big hits, being more physical, big blocks, big shepherds, big tackles. I love all of that. That's like how I played, but it's just bad luck. It doesn't matter if I like it or not. This is the way the game's going, and it has to go this way.
Yeah.
If the future of the game.
And people criticise Laura Kane. I thought what she did to refer it to the tribunal was exactly the right call for the incident, which was so unique.
My criticism, I had no criticism of that. I thought that was a great call by her. She needs to step up and do the same with Pickett. Even like in a moment where no one cares and it's been swept under the rug, they should be challenging that and saying this. We cannot have this in the game. Anyway, that's my criticism. Jared Wilson, last one. G'day, boys. Can we please see the vision of Skeet landing in the plane from your trip to Busselton this year? Some of the most underrated footage going around. Cheers,
really?
lads.
No, well,
have we got that up?
Only reason because I was cramped. I'm not huge. I don't mind sitting in preferably business if I'm flying.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in this plane and you three blokes are taking photos and saying, let's do a couple of death rolls. I'm saying, can we just get this on the terra firma so I can go and have a shelter and relax? So, yeah, it's not my first choice of travel to go in a, 3-seater or a 2-seater?
Jaden, if we could just roll some of that during the week.
Yeah, that'd be great. And speaking of a bit of feedback, again, I've had a 30-year career in doing radio, TV, etc.
How many times are you going to say it?
Yeah, well, only because it keeps coming back to hosted the Hammersley Careen Amateur Footy Club Fairest and Best Awards. Well done to them, 50 years. Had a pretty shite year on the field, but they know how to party. They can drink, the boys and girls there. Anyway, did some selfies. Seriously, did some selfies. And all they wanted to talk about was you and I sitting here talking shite on the Shelter FootyCast. So shout out to the Hawks, great bunch of guys and girls, and there we go. Yeah, just who knew our careers? Well, certainly you're an ex-footballer, and I'm what are you now? An ex-journo by the sound. Just a podcaster, and I still haven't listened to one episode of anything. I don't know how to find it. Anyway.
Oh my God, Skeeter, you done me. I'm done and dusted. FootyCast at Shelter Brewing. Send us an email.
By the way, Sharks, Peel Thunder, we'll talk about them on Thursday in the Waffle Grand Final. Should be huge.
Sounds
Optus.
Bye-bye.